The Calvert Parent-Teacher Association has been a staple of our local community dating back to 1956. That's a legacy of service spanning over 64 years. But this is an organization that no longer exists. Why? To answer that, you'll have to go back to 2011 when Calvert's school administrative assistant became the secretary of the Calvert PTA. It is also the first year that the PTA secretary, the position she held, failed to file any tax forms with the state of California. This was a pattern that continued all the way to the 2017-2018 school year. Then in October of 2018, a curious event occurred. Tax forms for years 2011 to 2017 were suddenly submitted to the state of California. They were all stamped as having been received at the State Attorney General's office on dates between October 26th and September 17th of 2018. All of these documents share two more things in common. They are all signed by the same person, Calvert's school administrative assistant. And this same individual listed herself as treasurer for each of these years. Although she backtracked and filed tax forms dating back 7 years, she neglected to file for the current year ending June 30th of 2017. Those tax forms would have been due to the state of California by November 15th of 2018. They were never filed. And as a result of this delinquency, Calvert's PTA was stripped of its charitable status on April 2nd of 2019. But who knew this information? Why wasn't this shared with PTA patrons and donors? And why did the Calvert PTA continue fundraising if the school administrative assistant knew it could no longer do so? By this time, alarmed parents and board members were already asking questions about the Calvert PTA's fundraising and accounting practices, and about the conflict of interest that became increasingly evident in having an employee of the school handling the funds of the school's Parent-Teacher Association. Eventually, members of LAUSD, Local District Northwest, stepped in, and the school's administrative assistant was forced to step down from her voting role on the PTA. This occurred in June of 2019. By then, the Calvert PTA had been fundraising for 2 months after losing its charitable status exemption. You would think that would be the end of the story. But after she was forced to step down, members of the Calvert office staff who work for this individual and their spouses, along with friends and former PTA members, all attended the next scheduled Calvert PTA meeting on August 28, 2019. But there's one familiar voice that stands out from that meeting.
Motion to vote to PTA.
That's the voice of the husband of the school administrative assistant. The mob that had gathered on her behalf voted to do something that hadn't occurred in the over 60-year history of the Calvert PTA. They voted to disband the PTA, and as a result, they forfeited tens of thousands of dollars that had been earned in volunteer fundraising.
If you disband the PTA, the money goes away.
You have 2 years to get it back.
How much money are we talking about?
About $26K.
So let's recap what's been brought to light. Calvert's school administrative assistant neglected to file PTA tax documents for over a 5-year period, brought Calvert's charitable status into delinquency and revocation, was forced by the district to resign from her position on the PTA, and her husband motioned to disband the PTA and voted for its eventual dissolution. So where do things stand today? Without a PTA in place, all fundraising for Calvert is handled by an entity called the Associate Student Body. Who is in charge of that entity? Calvert's principal. And you guessed it, Calvert's school administrative assistant. It's time for change at Calvert. If you agree, let your voice be heard by emailing the individuals listed below.